Hello and welcome to this week's Robin Pod Weekly, which is of course powered by Budget Tyres Auto Centre, the only car specialist trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of Hull Kingston Rovers. And what a week it is as we look forward to a Challenge Cup semi-final against the Wigan Warriors. It's almost like deja vu, isn't it? Joining me on this week's Robin Pod Weekly are regulars James Purling and Graham Turner. And Graham, I'm going to come to you. Are you actually going to get to this semi-final? Because regular listeners, if they rewind their memories, will know, of course, you didn't have great memories of that semi-final last time out, did you?
The memories were fantastic. It's still with us now in the fact that we watched the game on the side of the A63 just after the Ouse Bridge in the pouring rain, and stuck there the M62 for about 8 hours waiting for the recovery truck to come and pick us up from there. So hoping for a bit better luck with the car situation. The person who drove last time isn't going to drive this time. He's not coming, so he's been banned. So yeah, very hopeful of getting to Doncaster on Saturday in one piece. Without.
I was thinking, Graham, will you go past the scene of the crime?
Yeah, every single time I drive past it, I look left, and there's been a traffic cone there for months on end, which is almost like a memorial to it, and it's literally in the same place we were stood. So just as you drop over the bridge at Goal at the Ouse Bridge, there's a row of trees and an overhead sign, motorway sign. There's been a traffic cone there for months on end. It is just like a memorial to that day.
and James, speaking of the M62, of course, I mean, fantastic numbers travelling over to Warrington on Thursday night. That Ouse Bridge, I mean, if you're listening to this, watching this, and you was on the way home, that Ouse Bridge, I mean, I think I didn't get home till 1:30. Somebody was trying to jump off the bridge, diversions, blah, blah, blah. You know, typical Thursday night journey home after a defeat at Warrington. You know, we was talking about deja vu with Graham about the semi-final this week. It was almost deja vu, wasn't it? So many journeys over to the northwest, coming home disappointed, and then getting stuck in traffic and roadworks. Sometimes it's a tough life being a Hull Kingston Rovers supporter.
It is. I mean, you sort of expect that on a Friday night, don't you? But sort of Thursday, I mean, obviously, very unfortunate circumstances. But yeah, it was just trying to get back. I think I got home about 10 to 2 in the morning. So yeah, I was up at 5 for work the next day. So I was a bit tired the next day, shall we say? But yeah, it's just one of those things, isn't it? You just expect it. You know, you expected going there, and you expected coming back now. So. Yeah,
I tell you what, James. When I woke up in the morning, my missus said to me, "Was it worth it?" And if we'd have come back with the 2 points, I'd have said 110%. But you know, we always back the boys, don't we? We're there, we support them. It is what it is, you know. But going to the game, James, 20 points away, defeat. Second half good, first half not so good. What was your thoughts on the defeat to the Warrington Wolves?
Just disappointment, really. I think obviously when we played them at home, I think it was one of those games that we felt at the end of that game we should have won, and we went into that game on Thursday night full of confidence. I think Warrington, fair dues to them, they have been very good this season. They seem to have sort of turned the corner with Burgess in charge, but it was just that opening 20 minutes that just really absolutely ruined us, really. I think, I was listening to last week's podcast on the way over, and I think it was commented on actually how solid the right edge defence had been this season. Considering previous season when it had been a bit, shall we say, a bit leaky. And it was sort of the left edge that this season that was sort of causing a few problems. But I think Burgess and Hickey just had an absolute nightmare in that first 20 minutes on Thursday night. And you can't go to a team like Warrington and give them an 18-point start and expect to come away with anything at the end of the game. But fair dues to Rovers, they dug in, and sort of, I suppose, it became damage limitation, and eventually the scoreboard was a bit more respectable when it could. I think in probably the years gone by, at that stage, you probably would have expected to come away with a 40, 50-point hammering. To actually end up only losing by 12 points, actually, yeah, it turned out okay. Less damaging in the end.
Yeah, and Graham, I think the disappointment for a lot of Rovers supporters was the fact that it's normally, to be fair, most times this season, it's the Robins who've been getting off to the fast start. I mean, 14-0 down after 26 minutes. And albeit I was very, very impressed by Warrington, they sort of lost that little bit of flashiness, that little bit of, relying on star men to come in and do something special. There was really workman, the players knew what they was doing, and the frustration was that after 26 minutes to be 14-0 down, house on the terrace, and I'm thinking it's going to take a lot to come back from this, and it proved to be the case. But I mean, most sides you can't give a 14-point lead after 26 minutes, can you?
No, I was just going to sort of jump on the back of what James said there about going 18-0 down, and you cannot do that against Warrington, the top teams. And you're quite right, John. I don't think you can do it against any team in Super League to give them that sort of start and expect to come away with 2 points. So it's vital that you get your game plan right from minute 1 all the way through to minute 80, rather than just having 50, 60 minutes to try and play catch up. So yeah, I think the league's definitely tightened up this year in that respect, and I think you're right. And I believe we talked about this last week with the guys as well, about how the style of Warrington has shifted a little bit to that more workman-like style, and I think they did a proper job on us. They did their homework massively on us last week, and they really, really worked hard in defence that sort of earned them the right to keep us out on the scoreboard. And look, I won't say we gifted them points, but we didn't make it too hard for them to get their points in that first 20-25 minutes from from poor defensive read decisions that sort of allowed them relatively easy tries at that particular level. So I think there's work to do, and I'm sort of listening to Peters as well, and he, on his post match and his pre match as well, he recognised that obviously, and they're looking to fix that up this week. So all we can do is move on. We can learn from last week, and yes, it's disappointing because we all felt we were in good form. We could go over there, get that monkey off our back that we talked about last week around not being able to go to the Warringtons, the Saints, the Wigans on a Thursday and Friday night, and come back with the 2 points across the M62. We still haven't managed to get over that hurdle properly yet. So again, that's disappointment-wise set us back. But look, we've got as Bazza said, he's got a semi on already this week. So we've got that to look forward on Saturday. So let's sort of fix those up. Let's be positive. Let's get out there and back them on Saturday.
Yeah, and to be fair, Graham, not only has he got a semi on, he's got a space in his car. So
I don't know whether to take that offer up or not a Bazza with a semi on his car.
Yeah, space in my car if needed, Graham. So
he can put that semi on away if he's got enough space in his car.
Yeah, and apologies if anyone was shouting at the podcast or YouTube. Of course, I was saying 14. It wasn't 14, was it? It was 18 points because it was a penalty try. I think that really made the difference. Did you see the merits, James, in awarding the penalty try? I was stood over that pretty much as far right as you could go. At the time, it looked a bit dicey. When I saw it on the replay, I still wasn't sure. But hey, I don't know. I suppose the jury's still out on that one.
It is. I think the fact that because Burgess went in high on him, and I suppose the argument is that he could have scored if he hadn't have sort of gone in high on him. But then I don't think he was certain he was going to score because he looked like he was so close to touch anyway. You could actually argue, looking at the video, I think his foot was probably into touch before it even got touched by Burgess. So I think it was one of those ones that you can see them. You can see why it was given. You can see why it shouldn't have been given. I wasn't personally 100% convinced, but I could see why it was given. But unfortunately, again, it's just another, like I said, defensive lapse on that edge, wasn't it? That sort of allowed him to sort of to profit from that. Yeah, and it was a feature on that right edge, wasn't it? The players showing out line. I mean, Willie Peters has talked about it in his press, the press he did before Saturday's game against Wigan about
that right edge defence, just doing things that are not the Rovers' way. We saw the first try from Toby King, Tyrone May. He rushed out, created the space. Second try, the penalty try, we saw Burgess do it, and then we saw Hiku do it. It was almost like taking turns in who could shoot out the line as fast as they could. And what was frustrating is that obviously that's not the game plan. Willie Peters hasn't set him out to do that, and the players were taking on, taking responsibility to do that. But it cost us so many times, and it was interesting, Graham, when I was listening to the, like I've already mentioned, the Challenge Cup semi-final press conference thing that Willie Peters had done. He's almost guaranteed they won't be doing it again. So obviously, it's something that we're going to be working on. And I suppose, Graham, the frustration is these are experienced players doing this. These are kids coming in, and you give them the grace to do that. These are top level international players, and I suppose in training they've maybe learned the hard way now that they're going to have to put that things right.
Yeah, you do it once, you get picked off and concede. You then need to have a word with each other about that, about reminding yourself about what your jobs are. And if that's the tactic to use, then fine, you're executing it well. But it's a high risk player that can go against you 9 times out of 10. You're not going to get that intercept much more than 1-2 times out of 10. So it's not got much reward with it. So just lock it all up, be sensible with it, just play what you see in front of you rather than trying to go for the glory play. Like I say, do it once, you get picked off. You need some gentle reminders between your teammates behind the sticks. You don't do it again. You certainly don't do it 3 times. And like you say, with experienced players doing that, and also experienced players further inside them as well, not getting on top of them and having a go at them. That was a little bit worrying that nobody was sort of taking ownership of that, and the same thing just happened 2 and 3 times, and nobody was sort of grabbing them by the scruff of the neck and sort of bringing them back into the game plan.
I do wonder, Graham, that obviously they're so focused on defence, about instilling the DNA of Hull Kingston. What does a Hull Kingston Rovers performance look like? Defence is obviously paramount to that. Almost like the players want to defend so much, they want to get up there, they want to be the man who makes the tackle, that they've, I suppose at risk of, actually, sometimes you're better off just holding back. And that's a skill in itself, isn't it? Because as a human, when you're playing a game like rugby where you've got to be so tuned into it, and it's aggressive, it's fast, you can get up there and go as quickly as you can because you think you're going to be the one who makes the tackle. But then you lose sight of the fact, as soon as you do that, the person next to you has then got to make up for your mistake if you make one. And I guess I'm trying to put a positive spin on this, is that the players are doing this shooting out the line because they really just want to get there and nail the man. And if they do that, they've got a massive benefit to the side. But we're seeing the danger is if they get it wrong, we saw what happened if they get it wrong.
Yeah, let's hope they got all those out of the system in that one go, and they don't bring that to the table on Saturday. Because if we do that on Saturday, I don't see any way we can come away with a victory on Saturday if we keep jumping out like that with the quality and strike that Wigan have got out wide on both sides. We can't afford to be doing that. So as Peters was talking about on the pre-match presser, that won't happen again. So let's hope people have learned from that. And yeah, like you say, it looks good if you do make it as a one-on-one tackle, but there aren't many occasions where you go forward as a defensive, as a lone wolf, and come out on top because the players are too clever and smart in front of you with the ball in hand and can use footwork, passing the ball round you, over you, through. It's so hard on your own. So there aren't many occasions where a lone wolf going out of the defence to make a tackle comes out on top more often than not.
Yeah, and James.
I was just going to say. I think as you sort of highlighted in the presser, it's something that can be fixed. Hopefully it's just a one-off. And I think if you go back to the Catalan games when we were sort of very poor defensively, and the next game was up against Wigan, and it was just it was chalk and cheese. So clearly, that message got through after the Catalan game in preparation for the Wigan game. So I'm sure it'll have got through this time again, because the importance of the game on Saturday is sort of probably elevated even more. So it will. I think we'll see certainly see a different. I'm hoping so, a different defensive setup on Saturday than we did on Thursday night, and they just got it out of the system. It's probably down to, as you said, enthusiasm, just wanting to sort of make that hit and make a mark on Warrington, and just to sort of say, look, we're in this, we're in this game. You can't come, we're not expecting to, you can't run over us. We're going to be competing with you, but it just sort of backfired, and it's just, probably at the end of the day, just looking back on the game, just one of those nights.
I think, James, as well, it is split-second decisions, isn't it? A lot of the time, it's a reactionary motion you make to the ball in flight or a player movement, and once you've made it, you've got to commit to it. And if not everybody else around you is committing to it, then you do look silly when you get picked off, and you've got no time to backpedal and fix it up, because the players are too good in front of you to see you come in and can play around you or over the top of you or in front of you. So. It looks worse when it happens, but it is literally just that split-second decision that's been made, and you've got no time to react, to recover.
It just shows how it's a quality opposition as well. As you sort of said,
Absolutely.
You've got the likes of like the Duffy and Williams and Thewlis and in that Warrington side. Like I said, we can't give Wigan a sniff of anything like that, because the likes of Field and French and Miskey and Marshall will just absolutely rip us to shreds. So you just got to get it spot on. It's great if it comes off. Fantastic if it comes off. But like I said, it's that split second. And I think there will be certainly different approach this Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, James, we knew, didn't we, watching that game, that the Robins needed a score before half-time to give themselves a shout of doing anything in the second half, and we're talking about right edge centres and wingers. Well, if you look over to the left edge, Jack Broadbent seems to have just fitted into his centre position with effortlessly, effortlessly, and fantastic try he scored, albeit on the build, on the back of some great build-up play. But Broadbent, he looks every bit part of the player that we thought we were signing, albeit, I mean, Cass fans, Leeds fans were trying to, I suppose, poo-poo it, and we've seen that, haven't we, where a player's come in before. I mean, look at Corey Hall when he came in and did a really good job. As Broadbent's done the same, but we needed that try just before half-time, and I mean, it proved fruitless in the end. But Broadbent is a player who looks to have the assets. What's impressed me, James, as well, is he's got the size as well. He has,
I've been really impressed. I've been really impressed with the last two games he's played. I think go back to his debut. And we were saying before the game, being drafted in 5 minutes before kickoff, he won't have a chance to get any nerves. Whereas if it had been named at the start, he probably might have got a bit nervous, might not have had that impact. But he's just sort of slotted in seamlessly onto that into that left edge, and it's again, it just really shows you the quality that we've got in depth now within, particularly in the back line, that you can lose some of the quality of Gildart, and we're not even talking about 𝗬𝗂𝗀𝗃 not even playing. You just slot Broadbent in, who's been in the club a month or something like that, and he just plays like he's been there all the time, and it's just a real shame he's actually cup tied for this weekend. So but yeah, I'm sure we'll be gone to sort of, again, it's what we wanted. We've always spoken about this, haven't we? That we need that in-depth squad depth to sort of push players. It's something that Peters is very keen on. That players have to earn the place. They're not going to be there any gimmies anymore. And when you have sort of something like Broadbent wanting to make a point, pushing Gildart, who's and sort of 𝗬𝗂𝗀𝗃, as I said, been pushed out a bit. Really. It does augur well for the future.
Yeah, Graham, it was vital that the Robins got a score, after half time. So, ahead of wire, and 50th minute we saw Mikey Lewis, a try that's gone a little bit under the radar. I mean, people might have different opinions on the ground in the ball, but the magic from Mikey to try and execute a play, it didn't work, and to then have the foresight and the ability and the skill to then make something happen against, I think it was about 5 defenders he shook off in the end, to then still go over the line. I mean, when we look ahead to this semi-final on Saturday, those are the moments of magic that win games sometimes, albeit, I mean, he didn't against Warrington's, but, you know, the more times you try it, the more times it's going to come off. And Mikey's just got that in his back pocket, hasn't he? And it was, like I said, a try that went under the radar a little bit.
Yeah, and it's that unpredictability. It's that moment of magic. It's that split second that can change the course of a game. So if you are behind on the scoreboard and that happens, it can give you a massive sort of shot in the arm in terms of swinging the momentum back in your favour and give you real impetus. And yeah, it's just those moments where, you know, that's totally unscripted. It's not training ground. It's just completely instinctive, having a look, assessing the situation, made the first play, didn't quite come off, bounced back into his hands. Right, what do I do now? The next play is, right, I see a space there. That's where the ball's going. I'm going to chase it hard and let's see what happens. And yeah, look, it came off and it was fantastic individual play. I think we're gonna have to need something like that to unlock Wigan as well. So we need Mikey and Tyrone to be at their creative best. And whilst we need that structure of attack, which we've had and it's looked very well, we also need that flair, that unpredictability that Lewis can bring as well. That just very quick, dynamic, short step that he's got that gets him accelerated through small gaps very, very quickly, and then we're on the front foot and playing then. So yeah, I think we're going to need to see more of that from Mikey on Saturday, and hopefully he can bring it to the table, you know, at Doncaster for us.
Yeah, James. I mean, no further scores from the Robins. Ultimately, the game, you know, much better in the second half from the Robins. You know, huffed and puffed, tried things. You know, we saw Ryan Hall crabbing across the pitch and he passes the ball out. We saw Matty Staunton, you know, incorrect play the ball when we've just got the ball back in a real crucial period of the game. You know, that, you know, we go over at that point, it's a totally different game. What I wanted just to hone in on is the props and the contribution they made. 𝗫𝗎𝗄, it's quite clear to see who the front, you know, the main props now are. 𝗫𝗎𝗄, 43 minutes, 29 tackles, 8 carries, 48 metres. Jai Whitbread, 60 minutes, 39 tackles, 13 carries, 88 metres, average gain of 7. Against Warrington, George King only on for 22 minutes. He did 13 tackles. He only carried the ball 6 times and he made 35 metres. I want to get your opinion on this as well, James. Jack Brown, he came in, he did 36 minutes in that middle spell, 13 tackles. He actually made the most carries out of any props on the pitch that on Thursday against Warrington. 81 metres, albeit an average gain of 5. I think he's got much more an offload game. 𝗫𝗎𝗄, Whitbread, probably the frontline props, but encouraging debut, James, from Jack Brown as well.
Yeah, definitely. Considering, like I say, it's probably only had a couple, probably a couple of training sessions with the rest of the squad. So yeah, I thought it was solid. You know, I've not seen a lot of him while he's been over at the other side. But yeah, I thought it was sort of a solid debut for him. But like you say, I think 𝗫𝗎𝗄 this season has certainly stepped on for me in terms of, last season it was, I think his season was disrupted a bit with injuries and suspensions, etc. He's had that consistent run of running the team now, and we're starting to see that I think that grit and that sort of go forward that sort of we want. And the thing is, it is not like, when you look at him, he's not that all that, it doesn't seem all that big, but he just seems to be able to make the yards and put putting the tackles in, and just I've been really impressed with him all season, as I have with all the props, to be honest. And again, just when you think that something like George King is sort of perhaps becoming more of a fringe player now, it's sort of, again, just really highlights how we've progressed, and hopefully Jack Brown coming in, he will be able to sort of step on as well.
Yeah, I mean, Graham, the only thing I'd say to that is, 𝗫𝗎𝗄, average gain 6 metres. George King, average gain 6 metres. Whitbread, 7 metres. Brown, 5. For me, and this was, I said it on the night, at Warrington, we still seem to lack that real punch down the middle. I don't want to say that Paul Vaughan type player, but I mean that poor, you know, type player who can really just punch through the middle. We will look very Weightman-like in terms of we'll go through the graft, we'll take it to the line, but we don't punch through the line. And, you know, maybe it's because we're looking at an offload game. I don't know. Maybe that's the reason Brown's coming, because if you talk to supporters of that lot over there, they say he won't make you meters, but if he gets his hands away, he creates the offload, which gives players like 𝗪𝗏 and Mikey Lewis the ability to then play on the back of that, 𝗵𝗫𝗏 to play on the back of that. But I still think we're lacking a real punchy player. Yeah,
I think I'd agree with that. And I think just going back to James's point there about Jessie Sue, I think his physique this season is much, much better. It genuinely looks to me a different player to what we've seen over the last season or so. And, you know, for the better. His speed's improved, his running ability's improved. So I think that's down to the work that he's put in over the pre-season to look the way it does now. But I agree, it's still not that. But again, was that down on Thursday to the quality of Warrington doing their homework about how we've played previously and what success we've had going forward, for them to tighten that area up, to restrict us to 5, 6 and 7 metre averages? Is it a lack of ability on our side, or is it credit to the opposition for doing their homework on us?
I suppose, James, the frustration in the second half was, though, is that in the first half we seemed to very much middle centre, you know, going down the middle. Second half, we've played an expansive game. 𝗪𝗆's catching it on the fall, spinning the pass out, pace. You know, we want afraid to go to the back to the centres, wing. You know, we was playing a much more expansive game. And you're almost saying, well, that's what got us the success against St Helens and Wigan, when we've played it to the edges a lot more than we did down the middle. And it was almost like the second half, Willie Peters said to him at half-time, said, come on, lads, do you remember what we did against, you know, Wigan and Saints? And that, I think that was, for me, the frustration that, you know, the props, you know, was going down the middle. But actually in the second half, when we sort of went away from just concentrating down there, that's where the success came. The problem was the scoreline was just too big, wasn't it? We left ourselves so much to do.
We had, yeah. Like I said in the cast, you know, you can't go there somewhere and give that sort of level of points to someone like Warrington. But again, just to echo what Graham was saying, I think, you know, we've got to give credit to Warrington's defence. I thought, you know, their defence was just watertight. And as you said, you know, I think you go back to the Warrington maybe of last season or the season before under Powell, that sort of expansive play by Rovers probably would have opened them up. But they just seem to have that much more solidity around and cohesion around themselves this season. And that's, you know, they're starting to see that. And, you know, sometimes I think you just got to hold your hands up and say, you know, we're huffed and puffed. You know, we actually, you know, came back into it in the second half, played a lot better in that second half. But at the end of the day, Warrington defensively were just too good for us. And
yeah, Graham, I'm going to ask you a question, and I know it's probably you can't give an answer. If 𝗪𝗏𝗀𝗁 played on Thursday night, do we win that game?
If the game plays out the same way that it did, then no. But it's hypothetical and it's irrelevant, because it didn't, it wasn't. It's not going to change anything. So, you know, you could argue that if Oliver Gildart played that game, would it have changed anything? So I think injuries are part and parcel of it. You can't go around the what ifs. Yeah, it'd be nice to think that there may have been somebody dishing out some home truths about that, but there's enough experience out there to you know, for us to operate without 𝗵𝗫𝗏 on the field to, you know, to grab a few collars and have a few words. So yeah, you're never going to put your strongest team out, but every single week. But I don't think we can look at that and say, well, what if it, you know, if Minnie had been there? But nice to cause a bit of chit chat, but it's not going to change anything. We did the things we did for the reasons we did them. We've now got to fix that up and move on for Saturday.
Yeah, and the reason I asked that question is because I wanted to probably heap a bit more praise on Dean Hadley, you know, as we have been doing for the past few weeks on the Robin Pod. I mean, he got through 51 tackles against Warrington, and what surprised me. I mean, he shouldn't surprise me, because he's a fantastic player, but actually, the ability with the ball in hand to be able to move the ball on, very much like 𝗬𝗓𝗡𝗀𝗃. So I was almost setting you up, Graham, a bit naughtily there, so I could just make a point about how well I thought Dean Hadley played, because I thought
I agree.
it was fantastic.
Agree. Yeah, Dean Machine, again, 7, 8 out of 10 every single week, guaranteed. So I think a lot more people this season have come to appreciate the work that Dean Hadley does. A select few will, who sort of watch the game and study it, will have recognised it, and certainly the players understand you need players like Dean Hadley in every single squad. But I think now us as fans are seeing more value of what Dean brings to the squad and to the team week in, week out. And yeah, again, he's one that's had a few injuries last season or so, and now he's getting this consistent run in. I think a lot of people have been pleasantly surprised by what he can do. And like you said there, Johno, he's not a running 13, but he can play the ball as a 13. And everybody was over the moon last week when he got his try. As a recognition for the performances that he's been putting in, the quality of performances that he's been putting over the last 8 or 10 weeks.
Yeah, James, we'll move on from the Warrington defeat. We'll park Super League for now. Are you pleased that Willie Peters has signed a 4-year contract extension, which will keep him at the club until at least 2028?
What's not to like? It's just, it's like just literally it was 2 years, isn't it, that he sort of came, it was announced as being head coach, coming in as the new head coach. And I think considering where the club was then to where we are now, I think it's sort of surpassed, even our wildest dreams and expectations. I think, we're just sort of seeing progress, on the field. It's just been, stupendous, really. And it was, for me, it's probably the key signing that we need to be making is getting Peters extended. And I think having Willie now here for 4 years, I think that's going to make it, and again, continue to make it an attractive proposition for players wanting to come to the club, because they'll see how he's developed the team, he's developed the squad, he's developed individuals, he gets the best out of the players. And if you're a player out of contract and you're looking for your next club, why wouldn't you want to come to Rovers? You would. You'd be snapping your agent's hand off to sort of get me down to Craven Park. I want to talk to Willie Peters. I want to sort of see whether I want to be part of that, what they're building down there, because it's it's just fantastic. And yeah, it's great. It's probably the best signing all season. That.
Couple of questions then, John. On the back of what James said, I completely agree about Willie Peters being a fantastic signing for us. Do you think it was timing-wise, two sort of parts to this? Do you think it came about because of the rumblings around in Sydney and his connections with that organisation, and or given the nature of the defeat on Thursday night, and is it a good marketing PR tool in advance of Saturday's game?
Well, we saw last season, didn't we, when Rovers lost, somebody we announced on a new, either an extension or what. I think for the Rabbitohs link was, to be fair, I think it started from me, to be honest, Graham, because I don't think anyone else mentioned it apart from when I.
No, somebody else mentioned, somebody prominent in the rugby league world mentioned that one to me as a. I mean that's what I'm saying. Johno. No, I said somebody prominent, Johno.
Yeah. No, you know what? I think as much as the deal suits Rovers in terms of wanting Willie Peters to stay, it suits Willie Peters, and it's become very clear and evident that he's very much about family first, rugby league second, but that that almost sounds like he's not his family, but he can only do his job if his family comfortable and settled, and for him that's more important than uprooting his family, going somewhere else, trying a different job, and it don't work. So I think we're lucky that he wants to do that. I think the challenge to that and his contract extension is a little bit similar to Mikey Lewis when he signed that long contract. It's interesting to note both of their contracts run out in at the same time. But very much when the talk of Michael Lewis being about, the next big prospect, blah, blah, Rovers acted fast to tie him down. And that is because I think if you've got something good, it's got a value. And it's very rare, to be honest, in rugby league that you see players tied down to such long-term contracts. I know we saw Brodie Croft on some crazy 8-year deal. Wigan have followed suit in terms of giving Matty P and Lulai an 8-year deal. So, continuity is really important. It'd be interesting to see, though, what happens within that 4-year period to then justify that contract. And what was really interesting was in the Challenge Cup press conference, I don't know if he picked it up, where I think he was asked about silverware and stuff, and he said about success isn't determined by a trophy.
How do you define success?
Yeah, well, I think most supporters will say a trophy, because ultimately when you're in a 12-team competition and a Challenge Cup where the Super League teams come in later on, at some point, trophies have got to follow. But we're on that trajectory, and Willie Peters is very much the man who is at the forefront of not just the playing side, but he seems to have united an organisation alongside the likes of Paul Lakin. But Willie Peters commands the respect of the supporters, the players, his coaches, and the board of directors. And for me, he's the leader. But we keep saying it's got to be rubber stamped with silverware at some point, I think.
Yeah, I agree, Johno. I think there's a lot of things that we don't see going on behind the scenes around culture, environment, the squad, the attitude that play. We've all sort of commented on the attitude that players have when they're in defence, for example. That's something that's a choice, is your attitude. So players have to choose to buy into that, and that comes from Peters and the direction that he gives. So that's the bits we can see. But again, the bits we don't see about him interacting with the board, with Paul Lakin, etc., and coming with that sort of one direction approach where everybody is pointed in the same direction towards success. And is success a piece of silverware in that 4 years? We'd like to hope so. Or is success having a culture created that keeps working towards that and improving standards? And I think we've seen in the sort of 18 months or so that he's been here already, he's not afraid to move players on that have been his signings. The Corey Halls, for example, if they're not up to the scratch that he wants them to be at, he's not afraid to move them on. And that's been I won't say a surprise, but that's been a ruthless streak that he's got as well. And he's got that softer people side of things where he's all about the people and looking after the people. But he's also got that cutthroat side of there's no sentiment in it. If I've made a couple of signings, Aydin and Corey Hall, for example, if they're not going to improve the squad, or I can find better to improve it, I'll move them on. And that's what's happening. So it's all about that continual improvement in little areas. And I think the bits that we see on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday on match day are evident because it's the players. But the behind the scenes stuff around the culture and everybody working towards the same direction are the bits that will ultimately contribute towards that definition of success. In my opinion, it's not just about a trophy.
No,
yeah,
James.
I'm going to say I totally agree with what you're saying there, Graham. And I think for me, the fact he's able to, he's prepared to make those big calls, like I say about Corey Hall. It was his signing. He came in. Jordan Abdul, going back to Jordan Abdul, given that extended contract, and then being not afraid to ship him out to Catalans when potentially he's one of our key playmakers. And I think, but I don't think we can underestimate the cultural aspects of things. You look at the successful clubs over the last in Super League; they've all had that culture throughout the whole organisation. The Leeds Rhinos, Wigan Warriors, Saints, they've all had that culture from top through to bottom, that this is the way we do things. And it comes, starts off through, through the academy, comes through into the first team, etc. The whole club builds into that ethos. And that's, for me, that's what Willie Peters is trying to build. And so far, everybody's coming along on that journey. But at the end of the day, to be able to sort of cement it and sort of say, right, this is what we've done, needs a trophy there. And I think if he gets that trophy, then it sort of it's going to raise his stock with the NRL, because I think then it's sort of, if he wants to go back to the NRL, he can say, well, actually, I've won this, I've won that. Where I think at the moment there's probably 18 months as a head coach. He's done well, but there's that next step that I think if he goes to the NRL to coach, that's what he needs to step on. But so far, directionally, it's all going the right way.
But I think that time, John, of sort of the next 4 years plus the rest of this contract, that allows you to build into that time. So within 2 to 3 years as a head coach, with the contracts the way that they are at the moment, you've not got a chance to really, really build your squad. You can't move players on. Players don't move for transfer fees usually within rugby league. So unless you're going to make wholesale changes in a very, very short period of time, we know that doesn't work in terms of long-term success, because we've seen it. We've had 8, 9, 10 players move out and 10, 11, 12 players come in. It just doesn't work overnight. And you look at, as James said there, the Wigans, the Saints of this world, it's all about building. It's all about continuity, and your time will come if you do, sort of trust in the process and do the small things right consistently.
Yeah, and don't forget as well, it's all about the DNA, isn't it? I think I've heard Willie Peters talk more about DNA in the last 6 months than I have watching 5 years of 24 hours in police custody. It's all about the DNA. But he's right, isn't it? It's about putting that blueprint. And the Warrington defeat was a classic example of how the players, especially that right edge defence, went away from a Rovers, in inverted commas, performance, which is all about the DNA of the side, and that's how they learn. Because if they've got this is the thing, this is what people need to know, is that if you've got a plan of how you want to play and you go away from that, you've got something to come back to. You've got something to say, hang on, lads, in training, in pre-season, we said this is what we're going to do. And then if you put a performance in that doesn't match that, our players do something individually that don't match that, you've always got a base to come back and to say, no, we're going to go back to doing this. So I think, like James said about the Catalan defeat and then how we then responded against Wigan, it's probably because Willie Peters went, hang on, you've got to put that shower shite out in Catalan. That's not us. We said this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to play. And that's what they did against Wigan. So, the omens, maybe, James, I mean, hypocrite, I put out on social media, it's not about omens or luck or anything like that. But it's that ability to respond. Yeah. Right. Graham, Danny Richardson, Ben Reynolds.
Danny Richardson. Next question.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, James, a bit of a farce, that, wasn't it?
Oh, total farce, yeah. I mean, it's a surprise when Reynolds came in the first place, and then it does seem a bit bonkers.
Just a genuine question for everybody. I don't know if I can do this live or not, but for anybody who's watching, listening, or whatever, if there's a way you can get on the comments and that, are there any fans who welcome Ben Reynolds to the club? And I mean, this is a genuine question, because I just couldn't. I don't know what it was, but I just couldn't bring myself to sort of liking him in a Rovers shirt. And I probably know why, but I don't know why.
I know why. I know why.
Yeah.
After when they beat us last season, he was running up and down the east stand, giving it loads.
Yeah, I think it was at a time when we was sort of in a bit of a spiral in terms of panicking about, well, if Abdul's gone, who's going to replace him? Blah blah.
Yeah.
It was almost like, right, where's the next cab? So sometimes when you order a taxi, it might not be the first one that you want, but you got to get in it because you don't know when the next one might be. So I think that's what happened, and it's galling that we've paid a reported transfer fee to bring him over. I mean, the irony is that he signs for that lot on loan, and then he's injured, so can't even play in that game. The fact we then had to counter that by bringing in another loan player, is almost a galling bit, because. And the fact that Reynolds is now tied down to another season at Rovers, which means that there's every bit of potential that he might come back, or now the club are going to have to pay him off for that final season to get him off the books. So, I suppose, hindsight's great. and credit to the Robins, the transfer dealings of the last 2 seasons, since we got rid of, Vete, Sims, Takairangi, they've pretty much got everything nailed on. This is probably the 0.1% where they got it. Sorry, they got it right. This is 0.01% where they got it wrong. Time will tell, won't it? But I don't think you'll see many Rovers supporters clamouring to get Ben Reynolds back in a Hull Kingston Rovers shirt. And to be fair, Danny Richardson, he's not a bad replacement, is he? He's shown what he can do, albeit Graham with a horrendous injury record.
Yeah, and that's probably why it's given him a chance to sort of rebuild his opportunity. It's obviously going to be back up to Mikey and Tyrone at the minute. But should they get injured, should they get suspended, should they drop out of form, whatever, then we know we've got somebody with proven Super League experience at the top level as well. A good player back, in his younger days with, winning stuff. So he knows the game. Had a tough run with injuries, but if this is an opportunity and it can help us out, then I think it can be beneficial for both. But I think, like you just said before, John, about the transfer dealings, again, it just goes back to that point I made about Peters not being afraid to move people on for whatever reason it might be. They don't fit in with the culture, or they don't buy into it, or I appreciate after 3 or 4 weeks, it's probably a little bit too soon to be thinking about that. But again, it just goes back to that. If it's not the right fit for the squad, let's not have any bad apples in there. I'm not saying he was a bad apple, but let's not have anybody in there who doesn't need to be there or doesn't deserve to be there.
Yeah, right. Challenge Cup semi-final, James, on Saturday. The build-up to this semi-final, when you compare it to last season, seems to be, I don't know, a little bit different. What do you think?
Yeah, it does really. It's funny. All I've seem to be seeing is people moaning about the distance and the crowd, what attendance is going to be. It is bizarre.
And that's just from Graham not wanting to go over the Ouse Bridge.
I want the semi-final played at Craven Park.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, is it because this is going to be our 3rd successive Challenge Cup semi-final? So we're getting to a stage where we're becoming not blasé about them, because, I still think the fact we're still in the Challenge Cup semi-final is a great testament. But so they're on the trot and we're playing Wigan again, so it's all like deja vu, and there's sort of can history repeat itself again? But yeah, it just seems to have been a bit low key overall.
Yeah, Graham. I mean, the Hull Kingston supporters are an emotional bunch, aren't we? We get wrapped up, we feel it, we wear it. We the anticipation kills us almost, because we're just so desperate to be successful. I do wonder if this week we've, as a supporter base, maybe become more like, no, we're not going in hope of winning. Actually, we're on an equal footing. We're not going as plucky underdogs. We're going there as an equal to Wigan, and that raises expectations, pressure in itself. But I do feel it's a little bit different. And you know what? I'm pleased because we've seen in the past where we've got caught up in emotion. We need that ice cold, I don't know, steeliness. That's what ultimately sees you through to victory. Yeah,
play the game, not the occasion. It's the old mantra there. And I think just going back to the point about what does success look like and what does ethos look like, you sort of made a point there, John, around the last 3 seasons, Challenge Cup semi-finals, the Grand Final semi-final playoff last season as well. We're edging further towards being consistently in those big games at the end of the season. That for me is progress. That for me is determining, on the road to success. It's obviously not the ultimate success, but that is how we're progressing as a club over the last 2 to 3 seasons. And I think with like I said, the old adage of playing the game and not the occasion, it is just a game. We have played Wigan 3 weeks ago. We do know how to beat them. We can beat them. So that should give us a confidence, not an arrogance, but a confidence to know that we have got a game plan that can work. We just have to now go and execute that. And look, if we execute the game plan and we come out on top at the end of it, fantastic. We might execute the game plan and we might come out on the wrong side of it, but at least we've given ourselves a chance of being at Wembley in 80 minutes by being in the semi-final. There's, a whole host of other clubs that would feel they had a chance who aren't going to be one of the last four to have a crack at it. So for us to be consistently in those big games now, I think is testament to how far we've come on that success journey.
Yeah, and when, James, I look at the expected lineup on Saturday, our 18-man squad, Sam Luckley, Munichella, Willie Peters has said that he fully expects them to be back involved. And you look back at that side that did beat Wigan last season. I mean, we had the drama, didn't we, before kick-off where Ryan Hall pulled up, Michael Lewis went to full-back. Then we had Ethan Ryan, Senior, Opacek, Kenny Dowell, Milne, Snyder, Kennedy, Litton, King, Batchelor, Lynette, Minchella, Parcell, Staunton, Idin, Luckley. We've still got vast majority of them players playing, on Saturday. But there's players in there as well where you forget, we still got that victory and they've departed, they've moved on. It probably want the strongest lineup. And when you put the two sides at what we're going to field last season to compare to this season, I look at our side on Saturday and, it's vastly experienced, talented. And that's what I say about what I mean about expectations, and the players almost now need to deliver what we expect. And it's hard to do that, don't get me wrong, because Wigan can come out and do what Wigan do. They're the World Club champions, for God's sake, don't get me wrong. So you can't take them lightly. But what I'm expecting is two teams going toe-to-toe, and ultimately we'll see who prevails at the end of it. But yeah, like I said to you before, James, it just feels a little bit different, especially when you see the lineup.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think you like say you look at who the squad, the team we're going to have now. You have to say on paper, it's it's against a step on from that semi-final team from last year. But I also think we've got to sort of contextualise it and say, and actually, we know we can beat Wigan. I think we've played them 6 times the last sort of two seasons. We've beaten them 3 times. One of those, one we lost was the Invitational 13, the pre-Wembley Invitational 13. We lost a golden point game against them, and then the playoff semi-final where we just didn't get off the coach. For the first 10 minutes, we were out of the game after 10 minutes. So, but then we beat them. There's only, I think, isn't there only Rovers and Saints who've beaten Wigan since the last semi-final, last season semi-final?
Yeah.
So, we know we can beat them, and you got to think, we're going in there now, I think, as equals. Yeah, they are the world champions. Yeah, they are the Super League champions, and they're going to have a point to prove and get back. They're going to want some revenge for that semi-final game last season. But we can expect what's going to come at us, and I think we can take and absorb it. I think we're a much better team than we were last year, and I think we've also got to think from looking at the Wigan, looking at Rovers, thinking, well, we know what they can beat us. We know they've got someone like Mikey Lewis, they've got Tyrone May, they've got decent forwards, they've got Litton and Parcell and Evans, and they've got a really good team. We have to be on our A game to play Rovers. We have to be on our A game, no getting away from that. But they have to be on their A game to beat Rovers on Saturday. And I think whichever side, if their side drops off, then they're going to lose. If both teams play on their A game, it's going to be one hell of a game. That could go to golden point again.
No, don't say that. Jesus Christ. Yeah. I mean, Graham, it's funny that, because I was just picking up on it. Revenge, it's somewhat as supporters we talk about, don't we? Sometimes you hear it in the press. But I think that's like a false motivation. I don't think any player, especially when you're talking about when you've lost the game, who goes, right, I'm going to put in extra effort, or right, I'm going to change because I got beat last time out, so I'm going to go do something different. I think it just goes on the game, and that's what for me, that's why I'm on Saturday. I'm quite confident because I just think, you know, Wigan won't go out for revenge. Rovers won't remember last season's victory. It'll all be on the game on Saturday, and that's what I've seen from Rovers and what they did against Wigan, St Helens gives me enough belief that we can just beat them just by playing our game.
Yeah, absolutely. As James said, they aren't looking at revenge. They're the World Club champions, they're the Super League champions. What revenge have they got to get over us? It's a game working towards something for them, and the something is a trip to Wembley and a chance to win another trophy. That's what they're looking forward to. They're not looking backwards. And like, you know, if I align that to what Willie Peters was saying, he got asked in his presser about the experience of Wembley and said, you know, are you using that as motivation? He said, no, because it brings back negative experience because we lost that game and we did things wrong in that game. If anything, I take it more towards the semi-final where we did things right and we came out on top and the feelings we got from winning that game. So I could imagine that you know, Matty Pete would be the same thing of why would we want to revert back to a negative experience? Let's flip it over and take positive experiences into this game. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of the revenge side of things either, John. I think it's a game with two quality teams there who'll both be looking to get to get the win at the end of it to head off to Wembley in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, and when we're talking about squads earlier, James, I mean, what highlights it is the fact that Jack Broadbent's cup tied. Willie Peters, it's all right. Tom Opacek's coming in. And he's got complete faith in his ability to do a job. And, you know, I suppose that highlights where we're at in terms of squad. Maybe a little bit controversial. Ryan Hall's defence, James, what do you reckon to that at the moment?
It's not been the best, has it? If we're honest. Yeah, I think he's sort of been shooting out too many times. And saying, going back to what we said on the podcast last week, is the left edge that seemed to be been a bit fraught. You know, we had that solidity last season with Hall, Kenny Dowell, and Lynette out there. Yeah, and we just seem to have lost that slightly. And I think it's maybe just Ryan Hall just trying to sort of just come in and try and stop things happening, but it just missed timing. But as I said, he can't afford to do that on Saturday because you give somebody like Miskey or Marshall an inch, and then they're away.
Yeah, I suppose, Graham, even at his well, I won't say a tender age, but he still looks like he's a player who's trying to make things happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's just you talk about DNA. That's just his DNA of the professionalism that he's got. Yeah, he's got picked off a couple of times defensively, but it's part of a unit. It's not just him as an individual defending. So some of his, if you want to call them errors or lack of judgment, as we see, that's just the end point of a series of events that's gone on before it that's potentially left him exposed, and absolutely nothing else he can do other than try a Hail Mary to try and stop something from happening. So is it directly his problem, or is it the unit of that left edge as a collective piece that's sort of exposing him by their decisions inside him? And again, you have to look at each of the instances where he's been picked off to work that one out. But it's not usually just somebody flying out the line. He's usually the last port of call out there. He's got past many other people before it gets to him out there.
Yeah, Liam Burney's missing for Wigan. He's suspended. He's going to be a huge loss to them on Saturday, James. When you look at this game on Saturday, you can make an argument for both sides getting the victory, can't you? It is a really, really difficult game to call and try and predict a winner.
It is, and that's what I'm saying. If both teams are on their A game, it's going to be a hell of a game. And it's just that if either team drops from those sort of high standards they've set, then they know the opposition has got the skills and the wherewithal to take advantage of it. And then, you know, there ain't going to be many points in it, I'm afraid. So yeah, it's just so tight. It's hard to call. It is going to go down to the yeah, I said golden point earlier. I hope it doesn't, for goodness sake, because I don't think my heart could stand it. But it is going to be tight. I can only see about 4 points in it at the end.
Yeah, Graham, are you ready for the Rovers roller coaster?
Always, mate. I've been a lot more. I think I said it before as well. I've been a lot more pleased with how we've been able to control games, but it's just one of these. It's knockout. It's a knife edge. It's not where you can fix it next week with another fixture in Super League and get back in the winners column. It's do or die, isn't it? So yeah, I guess it's every fan's worst nightmare if you lose, and it's every fan's best dream if you win it. So there's no middle ground really with it, either.
Yeah, I just don't think my heart could take another 40-meter drop goal. Yeah, in the rain. But no, if you go into the game on Saturday, which I'm sure you will be, because the side are going to be backed by tremendous numbers once again. Full credit for the Red Army for supporting the boys. It's going to be a fantastic occasion. Hopefully the Robins come out on top once again. The Robin Pod Weekly is powered by Budget Size Auto Centre, the only car specialist trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of Hull Kingston Rovers. A huge thank you to Graham and James for joining me on this week's Robin Pod. But for now, live, love, laugh and be happy.